The hum of the sea hugging the hull was the only sound, except for the faint vibration of voices above. I pulled the musty air into my lungs, listening to the groan of the wood and the slosh of water. And suddenly, I was that little girl again, swaying in my hammock on the Lark. I'd been asleep on my father's ship when I heard the sharp ring of the bell echo out into the night. Only a few minutes later, the loud crack of the mast and the howl of an angry wind was followed by screaming. His hands found me in the dark, his face peering down at me in the little sliver of moonlight coming from the slats above. The night the Lark sank. The night my mother died. And in a single moment, everything changed. The next day, he left me behind on Javal. That's a quote from Fable by Adrienne Young. This is YA Book Chat, and I'm your host, Leah Stuhler.
Hi, I'm Bethany Finger, the host of Prince Kai Fan Pod, a Marissa Meyer Book Club podcast. Join me every week during my read-along journey through all of the books by author Marissa Meyer, one chapter at a time, spoiler-free. Each episode will feature a different guest, new fan art, and laughter and joy through reading. You can find Prince Kai Fan Pod on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and all other listening platforms. And now, back to the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of YA Book Chat. Thank you for being here and for listening. Thank you so much to my patrons for your constant support. I really appreciate it. Today, we are diving into the world of Fable by Adrienne Young. And yes, I did say diving on purpose. If you've read this book, you know why. Just going to be cheesy to start things off today. And I am very excited to welcome Rachel from Barely Bookish. She is here as my guest today. Hey, Rachel, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. I love the diving pun. I was like, I hoped you were going to say something about it because I was going to say something about it. I was like, yes, perfect. Starting it off right. Starting it off strong.
I had to do it. I am super excited to talk about this book. Again, I always say that, but it's just because I mean it. Fable is just such an absolutely fantastic book. And as soon as Rachel and I both finished it, she messaged me and was like, hey, do you want to do a Patreon episode on Namesake? And I was like, of course. Guess so. So we already have that planned in the works to do. So Patreon members, guess what? You're going to get that coming up soon. So make sure you get this one read first. All right. So anything new going on, Rachel? What are you reading right now besides starting Namesake this week?
Okay. So I'm always reading like 4-ish books at a time.
Nice.
So I just finished They Both Died at the End. Cried, as you do. If you haven't read that yet, let me tell you, that should be an episode you do. It's wonderful. You're going to cry.
It sounds really sad.
It is kind of sad, but it's beautiful. It is so beautiful.
It's called They Both Die in the End. So,
yeah. And you start the book and they get a call and they're like, hey, today's the day you die. And it's like the entire time you're like, no way. No, they're not going to die. It's not going to happen.
It's weird.
So I just finished that. Wonderful. Currently reading Lore, which is a book. It's okay. It's good. But I didn't realize it was basically an action movie and a novel.
Oh.
So I thought it was going to be like more Hunger Games-esque because that's kind of what it was marketed as. Where there is action, but there's also like storytelling background, that kind of thing. Gotcha. But this is just like a full action movie and a novel, which is not bad, but it's just not what I was expecting. Pretty
Isn't it based off of a Greek myth? Like some Greek mythology?
There is Greek gods and goddesses in it.
Okay.
But it's not, it's in modern day. And basically it's all about being like hunting Greek gods and goddesses.
Okay. Well, it is, I just bought it. And it's sitting on my TBR shelf, just waiting for me to dive into it.
If you read it knowing it's an action movie, then it's better. But I kept getting confused because it's not what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like Percy Jackson,
Gotcha. All right. Well, good to know going in. Thanks for the tip.
Yeah.
So that's 2. You said 4-ish. Anything else?
Also reading the Iliad right now.
That's crazy, but
Yeah.
of all
Yeah.
things.
So that's another one I'm reading. What else am I reading? I know I have another book. I'm reading the 4th book in the Lux series,
Okay.
Lux novels by Jennifer L. Armentrout, the Alien ones. Very good.
Nice.
I
Very
know.
good.
I'm supposed to be reading Shadowbone. Haven't started it yet, but we're getting there.
Okay. I am reading Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. I just started that and I'm enjoying that. It's giving me lots of flashbacks to college. I will say that. So, but really good so far. And I'm also reading Namesake. So I was just telling Rachel, you guys, that I am on chapter 16 out of 45 chapters, and I am already so fully enthralled in this book. I am so excited because sometimes, you read the first book and you're like, okay, what is the sequel going to be like? And you don't know if it's going to be good or not. And you go into it with high expectations. And then sometimes it's like, ugh. But this one is actually not like, this one is just as good as the first one. And I'm super excited. So it's really good.
I read Fable while I was sitting out by the pool, and it was giving me such Florida vibes. Like summer Florida. I could feel the salt water. I was like, yes, perfect. So I'm going to do the exact same thing with Namesake because it really cocooned me in the story.
Right? I felt like I should be sitting on a beach somewhere reading it, just with the ocean around me while I'm reading about all of this sea stuff happening. So, well, let's get into talking about it because this is going to be great. All right. So, just a reminder for everybody, or in case you're new and haven't listened before, the first 15-ish minutes will be spoiler free, I promise. And then I'll let you know before we go into the spoiler section, just in case you haven't read the book yet. Okay. So first, a little bit about Fable and what it is. I'm going to read you guys the book jacket because it's such a really great description of it. Welcome to a world made dangerous by the sea and by those who wish to profit from it, where a young girl must find her place and her family while trying to survive in a world built for men. For 17-year-old Fable, the daughter of the most powerful trader in the Narrows, the sea is the only home she has ever known. It's been 4 years since the night she watched her mother drown during an unforgiving storm. The next day, her father abandoned her on a legendary island filled with thieves and little food. To survive, she must keep to herself, learn to trust no one, and rely on the unique skills her mother taught her. The only thing that keeps her going is the goal of getting off the island, finding her father, and demanding her rightful place beside him and his crew. To do so, Fable enlists the help of a young trader named West to get her off the island and across the Narrows to her father. But her father's rivalries and the dangers of his trading enterprises have only multiplied since she last saw him, and Fable soon finds that West isn't who he seems. Together, they will have to survive more than the treacherous storms that haunt the Narrows if they're going to stay alive. Very good description. I will say, though, first thing that actually really drew me into this book was the cover. Yep. Like so many other books, because it's just, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. And you guys, if you're listening and you have not read this or seen the cover of this book, you need to go look at it, because it's half of her face, but it's just, she's got this fiery red hair and these sparkling blue eyes and these rich lips. It is just gorgeous. It's just so pretty. I'm like, oh, she's so pretty. She's like Merida from Brave, the Disney movie.
It's funny because I tried to take, when this book first came out, there's a lot of people doing half face photos with it. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. I'll do that. And then I realized my face does not line up with this face at all. So my face is not evenly proportioned. My nose to chin ratio is a lot smaller than if you were supposed to divide it in thirds, and it didn't line up right. And I was like, well, I guess we won't do that then.
Well, I didn't know because I'd only, just picked this up recently. And then I was like, oh, wait, her second book is coming out. The second one's coming out. So, and I had no idea, and you don't normally know ahead of time about the cover until they reveal it. But I hadn't seen anything because this is the first that I was even just reading this book. So when the new one released and the cover, I was like, it's her whole face. Like the second book is the other half of her face. And when you see it together, it's just the most beautiful thing. I just absolutely love it.
It's perfect.
Mm-hmm. It is perfect. I'm just like, wow. Okay. She's gorgeous.
I don't know.
Model is.
Yeah, whoever they cast for that, they did an amazing job. She's beautiful.
Well, and okay, what I love too, which I didn't notice at first, it took me actually a little while. I was probably like halfway through the book before I actually realized that you can see the ship in her eye.
Hold on.
Did you notice? See? Did you notice that?
When I read, I literally throw the dust jacket in a different room. I do not bring it with me because it annoys me. Oh my gosh, wow.
See? I hadn't even noticed it. And then one day I picked it up and was like, wait, the ship is in her eye. It makes it even more cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, as soon as I start reading it, the dust jacket comes off. But I did notice like my under the dust jacket. Well, no, I mean like the hardcover it reminds me of Legend of Zelda, which I'm playing right now, like the symbol.
Yes.
So every time I was holding it, I kept like getting such a craving to play Legend of Zelda. I can't believe I put my dust jacket on upside down. I was so confused. I was like, where did the cover go? So
yeah. I like when they put something on the cover and it's not just blank. Like I actually get really disappointed when I open up and take the dust jacket off and I'm like, oh, it's just blank. I'm like, why? Just put something there. So I really like that they did this. It's a really pretty symbol.
I wonder if it's supposed to be the symbol of the marigold.
That is a good question.
I didn't read that description well enough to make that for certain or not.
It's evading me at the moment. Something to look into. All right. Well, give me your spoiler-free overall kind of thoughts on the book. What stuck out to you? What'd you really like?
Okay, this is very specific for all my LGBTQ Gen Zers. If you like bisexual pirates on TikTok, you're going to like this book. No further questions.
Okay, we can't really say too much else about that right now because I don't want to. Is that a spoiler? I don't know, but we can talk more
I don't think
about
so.
that. Yeah, it's not really. But it is kind of funny. I was like, okay, when you think of pirates, you don't think like all the pirate movies you watch, Pirates of the Caribbean, like all these other things, right? There's this documentary on Netflix I just started watching about pirates. It's actually really kind of cool. You don't automatically think of them as being gay, right? Mm-hmm. So then I read that and I was like, all right, hey, gay pirates, awesome.
I remember, I don't know what I was listening to, if it was a podcast or what, but actually apparently so women on pirate ships were bad luck.
Right.
So the majority of people on pirate ships were actually gay because sailors didn't care.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I totally never thought about that before. That makes total sense.
Yeah. Because pirates don't care.
What are they going to do? Right. They're pirates. There's no women on their ships. Except for on Jack Sparrow's ship, because it would be worse luck not to have her.
Truly. Everyone would have died if it wasn't for Keira Knightley, and I stand by that.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about Keira Knightley. I'm talking about...
Calypso?
What's her face? No. Oh, why is her name escaping me? The other crew member who's a girl, and he's like the first movie, and she's in line and she slaps him and he says, yeah, I deserved that one. And she's like, you stole my boat or you owe me one. And then he lets her on. Remember? Oh my gosh. And I love her too. And I cannot think of her name right now. Zoe Saldana. Because then one of the pirates says, it's bad luck to have a woman on board. He said it'd be worse luck not to have her. So anyways, yeah, that was fun. What else?
You were a Pirates of the Caribbean kid. Definitely for you.
Mm-hmm.
I Love this book. Okay, so I don't know if I've told you my toxic trait, but my toxic trait is that I do not read any summaries of books at all. So I only read them based off of people recommending them or the title. I never read the summary. So this entire time when I said, yeah, I'd love to read that book with you because I heard good things, I thought this was going to be a like fairy tale retelling because, Fable.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea what it was about. I just knew a bunch of people liked it. And I was like, yeah, sure. Sounds good. Whatever. So then when it was pirates, I was like, well, I like pirates. So I guess it worked out. Usually it works out fine, but I just, every time I start a book, I'm like, wow, it's a nice little fun adventure. Because I hate reading summaries. I feel like they spoil too much.
Yes and no. It depends. I mean, the good thing is that they're not like Shakespeare, who gives away the entire story in the prologue of his plays. So, he tells you what's going to happen. Okay. So I normally actually do read the summary. I do the opposite because I'm like, okay, I want to know what this is about, even if it's something that people recommend a lot. With this one though, I hadn't seen the full summary. Like I knew that it takes place like on the ocean and was pirate-ish, but I was like, for some reason I had in my head, like I thought that I saw something about mermaids and I was like, oh, there could be mermaids in this? That would be really cool. And then I'm reading it and I'm like, no, this is not a mermaid story. It's really good, but there are definitely not mermaids in this book, which is fine. It doesn't need them. It's perfect without them. But so it was just funny because I had only partially seen a summary or description and not the whole thing. I don't know where the mermaid idea came from, but it's fine. I'm glad they're not in it actually. So
see, I'm a Pirates kid. Like I was a Pirates of the Caribbean junkie in like elementary and middle school. I watched it like almost every weekend. I interchanged with Star Wars. So this is right up my alley. Yeah. So I'm glad it worked out in my favor, honestly.
Yeah. Well, and seriously, that was one of the things that I wrote down too that I love about it is this world that Adrienne Young has created because that's why I was reading it and reading all her descriptions of these port towns, these different port cities. And I'm like picturing Pirates of the Caribbean and the Tortuga and the different port cities and that they went to in different places. I was like, oh yeah, I could totally see all these like rough pirates, men and women walking around. Like, although, okay, here's what's really funny. And this is not a spoiler. So, what's funny is her dad, like he's supposed to be like the roughest one, right? He goes into these like restaurant over there. He drinks tea. He's sitting there like drinking tea out of a porcelain teacup. And I'm like, it just doesn't seem like it fits, but hey, whatever, it's fine. Whatever suits you. Yeah. It definitely has Pirates of the Caribbean feels to it. And I'm a huge Pirates fan as well. So that was really good. I definitely pictured Johnny Depp multiple times while I was reading this. And Gibbs, Mr. Gibbs. I kind of pictured Clove like a Mr. Gibbs type character,
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, he's very similar and to him.
It's funny because I kept forgetting West was blonde while I was reading this.
Yeah,
and
me
then
too.
say that he was blonde and I was like, whoa. Oh yeah, okay.
He doesn't feel like he should be a blonde. No. I feel like he should. I feel like a lot of the pirate movies and stuff, like in Pirates of the Caribbean, like they all have dark hair.
Yeah.
It's weird to think of a blonde pirate, and I don't know why. It just seems like they should be dark and broody in including their hair.
Well, the thing that I was thinking about the entire time is Fable being a natural redhead. She would be so sunburned. Like, how is her skin faring? Because it can't be well.
I mean, yeah, because you don't really adjust to it. Because I've lived down in South Carolina now for 7 years. Gosh, it's been a while. And no matter what, like I still get burned. Like I will tan, but I still have to put a boatload of sunblock on. And if I don't, I will burn. So it's not like you can really adjust to it. I don't know, but apparently she's fine.
Yeah, apparently she's fine. I was
It's fine,
like,
whatever.
fantasy, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, she swims so much. She's in the water so much that, you're under the water. Maybe it doesn't really matter.
As someone who has fair skin and lives in Florida, I can tell you the water does not protect you. It makes it worse.
But if you're standing like in the water, that's really bad because the light reflects off of the water. But what
Yeah.
if you're like under it and you're diving and you're swimming? Like she goes way down low.
Yeah, she's still got a boat there, boat back every day.
That's true.
You know?
Well, apparently she's just got amazing skin.
I guess,
So,
like,
there's that.
Genetics were in her favor.
Yes. I love the characters in this book. Like Fable is fantastic. West, his crew, Saint, her father. It's just, they're all just such unique and fun characters. And they all have, which we'll talk about this more in the spoilers, but a lot of them all have like secrets and different things about them that they're hiding that you kind of find out. You get these little tidbits all throughout the book, which is really fun because it's like more and more is revealed about each one of them. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like I can see now why you're like this or why this happens. And Fable is just fantastic because she's just a strong, independent woman who is a survivor. 13. Her dad
Yeah.
leaves her on an island when she's 13. And not just any island, but he leaves her on Javal where there's all these like nasty older thieving men. She has to figure out how to survive. And she's this like gorgeous girl who men would want to do things to. And she's got to figure out how to survive. 13. Like,
All I'm thinking about how Javal is basically what the original plan for Australia was the entire time I was reading it. Because, Australia, when it was first created, was a British jail country, from my understanding.
Which is why in The Princess Bride, it's William Goldman describes when Vicini is talking about it, he says it's in Australia, as everyone knows, is entirely inhabited by criminals.
Yeah, so like I was thinking about that the entire time, and I was like, so one day Jamal's going to progress to a point where now we just know it as a place no one wants to go because they got crazy giant spiders and the animals that want to kill you.
Oh my gosh. I'm telling you, I was just like, of all places to leave her. And again, I'm picturing like these, Tortuga from the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, which are like, I can't even imagine a 13-year-old girl being there by herself.
Nope.
She didn't know how to fend. Fortunately, she grew up on the ship with her parents. So she has, seafaring experience. Her mom taught her how to be a dredger, but so she has those abilities, but she had to figure out how to get food and how to build a shelter for herself. She doesn't really she doesn't even have like a cave. Like she lives and sleeps under a tree and a little rock formation.
I know.
It's not even, she doesn't even have anywhere to store her stuff. She's got to hide her money in the hole in the tree. So it was just kind of crazy to think about that. And so to be able to survive those 4 years and figure that out and be so independent, is fantastic. So the love interest relationship in this, you want to talk about a slow burn? Holy Moses, I was dying. I'm like, can we just please, you're killing me right now. Because he just didn't know what was going to happen and which way it was going to go. Slowest burn ever. Slow thing. And I was like, I realized from reading this book that as much as, I loved this book, I realized I am not a slow burn relationship kind of person. Not my favorite love trope. Nope.
My favorite love trope is enemies to angry lovers to lovers. It's specifically when there's only one bed and they're like forced to stay with each other, but they're still enemies at that point. And like one person's like, you need to sleep on the floor. And the other person's like, this bed's big enough for the two of us. That's my favorite. So, Serpent and Dove.
I was just going to say, have you read Serpent and Dove?
Yeah.
That's where it is right there. That's a perfect example. Yeah. I mean, this was just like, for me, slow burn is like torture. I'm just like, can we please just get on with this already? Like, I just like, it makes me tense.
See, having an entire podcast about the classics, every time there is relationships and romance, they're always slow burn. And every time I'm just, I mean, I love a good slow burn, but like, sometimes I'm like, come on, Darcy, get it through your head.
Right. I will say, the most, as far as classic books are concerned, the most aggravating relationship I've ever read was Wuthering Heights with Catherine and Heathcliff. Oh, just be prepared going in, because that one is aggravating.
Is that the one with the ex-wife in the attic?
No. Wuthering Heights. We'll talk about it later.
Okay. If you want a guest on that one, let me know.
It's a good one. Any other spoiler-free overall thoughts or anything you wanted to talk about?
Let's see. I have such a hard time holding the spoilers in without giving anything away. So like I'm gonna have a lot more to say when we get into spoily corner, but things I will say. If you're a gemstone nerd like I am, I was like, yes, I love all of this. As they're talking about like dredging. I think that's how you say it. Dredging?
Yes, dredging.
That's right. Yeah. I was like, I want to do that. And I was like, oh, wait, I can't swim well.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. Sounds cool, though.
It does. You know what? Okay. You know what I kept thinking about, too, was how she talked about describing about how she was breathing, like, because, no scuba diving gear or anything. Right. So the way that she described, like how she has to like take in the extra breaths, like to expand, like how she was like expanding her lungs or her ribs to take in extra breath so she could hold it really long to be down there to dig up all the gems and stuff. I was like, that's really weird. And I'm thinking, like, I kept thinking, how do you do that? Because she talked about like how she would tip her head back and then, try and swallow the air. And I'm like, how do you, is there a way to really do that? Like to take in extra air like that and suck it in so you can stay down there a lot longer? Like I don't know. And then I think
that's called free diving. Like, probably. I think it's a thing.
Probably is. I mean, I'd imagine. But it was just, I don't know. That was just interesting to me. But all the gems are really cool, too. And what's great is in Namesake, book 2, they talk a lot about gems as well. And we get even more like different types and stuff and descriptions, which is really cool.
Yeah, I want to learn more about her and all the gem stuff, because I was like, we got like a little taster, like a little appetizer of it. I'm like, I want to know everything. Tell me more.
Yes, me too. All right, let's move into the spoiler section now, because we have a lot to talk about with this one. So if you have not read Fable and you do not want anything spoiled, which please, I'm going to actually beg you on this one. If you have not read Fable, don't listen to the spoiler section. Okay. Please don't ruin it for yourself. You need to discover this one by reading it. So don't listen to the spoilers if you have not, but if you have read it, then by all means, of course, listen to the rest of the episode. All right. You've been warned. Here we go. So let's start with Fable and her life on Javal as a 13-year-old girl, having to survive for 4 years and learning to fend for herself.
I hate Saint for this so much.
Right?
I'm like, how could you do that? First of all, her mother died, died. And then he's like, hey, child of mine, you sweet, innocent 13-year-old who I've already told will not survive in this world. Let me carve into your arm a roadmap to lead you, not tell you what it is at all, and then send you to the island of thieves and crazies that will try and kill you for acting slightly different. Good luck. Like, he couldn't have dropped her in like a real big city where she could just kind of blend in. He's like, no, go to the worst one. Like, all
Right?
these islands I could have chosen, the awful one is the one you're gonna go to. Good luck.
It was horrible. Well, and then you think about it, he does that, right? But Clove is with him, and Clove says nothing.
Mhm.
Like, Clove just lets him, he doesn't even say, wait, Saint, I think this is a bad idea. She's only 13. She just lost her mother. You shouldn't be abandoning her. He just goes along with it
Yeah.
and doesn't even say anything to Saint. And so you're like, what? And the way that she described him was like how he was always there for her, Clove, and such a protector of her, almost like a second father in a way, only one who treated her nicely.
Yeah.
But like, and then you're like, what? Well, what are you doing? Why did you abandon her too? Like, so not cool.
I was not too happy with that part. I was like, and the fact that she's literally 13.
Yeah,
And
I know. Okay, so here I'm going to read this part because this is a really good description. Okay. My first night on the island, I'd slept out on the beach, too afraid to go up into the trees where the tents were pitched around burning fires. I woke to a man tearing open my jacket, searching my pockets for coin. When he didn't find anything, he dropped me on the cold sand and walked away. It took days for me to figure out that every time I fished in the shallow, someone would be waiting on the beach to take whatever I caught from me. I ate kelp for almost a month before I found safe places to forage. After almost a year, I finally had enough coin saved from cleaning other people's catches and selling palm rope to buy the dredging tools off Fred, who was too old to dive anymore. I mean, the poor girl had to eat kelp. That is seaweed. Dude, that is nasty. Nasty. Yeah. Now, people do eat it. I'm not. But I mean, here's the thing. Like, was she eating it wet and nasty? Did she let it dry in the sun?
The first time.
Anyway, it's gross.
Yeah. First time it was probably wet. She was starving.
And can you imagine being 13 and waking up to a man going through your jacket and your clothes? And then you have no idea what else he's going to try and do, right? Like, she's lucky he didn't try and do anything else. And then every time you go fishing in the shallow water there, people steal your food. So she had to learn how to fish in the deeper parts, which I thought was really clever when I was reading that part, how she made herself like a cage, like a lobster cage type thing to put down into the depths. And then, but she would have to like climb on the side of the cliff to do it. Like, just crazy.
I still don't understand the reason that he did this. And I'm hoping that we'll find out more in the second book, because it still doesn't make any sense to me at all.
No, there's really not a good reason. And so far in the second book, we haven't been given one. So I'm like, okay, but I still have a lot of chapters to go. So we'll see. Maybe it will get explained. I don't know. But it's just, I don't know. What's cool though, was that part of the reason that she was able to survive is that because he had these 5 rules that he told her, and that, so she tried to live by the 5 rules. So he would say, keep your knife where you can reach it. That's number 1. Very good to have as number 1. Never, ever owe anyone anything. Nothing is free. Always construct a lie from a truth, which, that's really the best way to go. Never under any circumstances reveal what or who matters to you. So, I mean, living by those rules really helped her a lot to be able to survive. But even still, like, I mean, can you imagine like living on an island by yourself, 13 to 17 years old, no real home or shelter except for a tree. So,
and for what? Like, for what? There's no reason that she had to do that at all.
Nope. Just because her daddy was a jerk.
Like, it's not like it taught her any, like, I guess it like made her hard and calloused, but like, there's other ways you can do that and still ensure your child survives. Like, she almost didn't survive that. Like, she was seconds away from being slaughtered, and the only reason she wasn't was because of West.
Right. Which, okay, so we do find out towards the end of the book that West was sent by her father. So, you go through like 3/4 of the book and you're like, man, her father sucks. And then you get there and West finally reveals to her what's happening. And you're like, oh, okay. So he does still stink
Mhm.
for leaving her there on this island by herself.
Mhm.
But it was nice, at least, that he sent West to kind of keep an eye on her in a way. And West would only trade for Pyre with her because that's what Saint wanted. And so he helped her be able to save up money that way. But still.
I mean, all I'm saying is that the bar is on the ground and somehow Saint was still below it. Like, her bare minimum was just like, hey, come back and get me. It's been 4 years. And Saint's like, no. Thanks, though.
But I'll send somebody to make sure they trade with you for Pyre and you can make money.
Yeah, not good
help
enough.
You survive. No. And she's lucky she was able to keep her stash of money hidden away as long as she was. Well, because the one guy, Coy, is Coy the one who, because Coy is like talking to her when he's taking her out to dredge. And he's like, I know that you're trading all that Pyre that you're finding. I just can't figure out what you're going to do with the coin. And he's like, where is all the coin that you're keeping? You can tell. And he's really, and then he and whoever else it is go and like ransack her tree, her little, not the tree, but her little shelter area by the rocks, to try and find her money, which fortunately they didn't find because she hid it in the knothole in the tree. Very smart. So, but it's just crazy because she's like, she knows, she talks about how she knows that her time there is coming to it. Like she needs to get away or else she's going to get killed. Yeah. So, just dangerous pirate island.
I don't understand. Like, why that island? He could have left her on like Dern or the other one that she was. Yeah, Dern, I think, was the one he wasn't on. He was on the one that started with the C, right?
Yes. Yeah. Saris. Yeah.
Like, Dern seemed fine. That would have been a great place to leave your child. He basically could have left her in Chicago instead of New York City, which is fine. She could have blended in Dern, but like as being the only female dredger in the entire island, and she gets special treatment from one guy who will only buy hers, and she's finding all the Pyre and no one else is finding it. Like, obviously things are not going to go well for her.
Right. And you want to know, and then there's what he says to her when he leaves her there. You weren't made for this world, Fable. You want to prove me wrong? Get yourself off this island. So she works 4 years to try and earn enough coin to get herself off the island to prove to him that she can do it and to go and earn a spot on his crew.
Maybe it's just like my inherent like inability to forgive, but like I literally would have gotten myself off the island and never reached out to him, always let him wonder what happened to me. Like I never would have found him again. I just would have been like,
she doesn't have her mother either though, so she's like desperate. But see, some people like really want to prove themselves, like that makes them instead of pushing the person away, it makes them really want to prove themselves to the person instead and say, nope, see, I did it after all. I feel like that's kind of where she's coming from. And
I feel like I'm a cut ties kind of person with toxic people, but that's just me. I can see how she would want to prove herself, but like had I been in her shoes, I don't think I would have reached back out to Saint. I would have been like, you can wonder, bucko, because you're never going to hear from me again. Goodbye.
Yeah. Anyways, so West. Okay. It's funny because again, super slow burn with him and Fable, right? I mean,
the slowest.
He doesn't even want to take her on the marigold. And she's trying to escape. Coy's coming after her and she's like, I need to get off of here. And he's like, no, I need you off my ship. But he does end up letting her stay on the ship. But he tells her as soon as they get to Saros that she's got to get off. And it's like, and she even says, he'd bought my pyre for the last 2 years, but West and I weren't friends. He was right that he didn't owe me anything, but when I'd run down that dock screaming his name, he'd saved my life. And somehow I'd known he would. So it's like, she knows like they're not really friends. He comes and trades with her, but yet there's that little hint of an inkling at something. For some reason, he takes her on. So we find out later, oh my gosh, I love the scene where he like finally tells her how he feels. I am looking for this because, oh my goodness.
That underwater scene though.
Oh my gosh. Yes. That's what I was the underwater scene. They go down to swim in the lark, where the lark is, to get the treasure. And he kisses her and I'm like, I was like, underwater kissing scene. Like, it's such like, ooh, it was just super tense, man. Like oh my goodness.
My jaw dropped.
I love it. I'm trying. Okay. His calloused fingers slid over the wood before they wound into mine, slowly pulling my hand from the trunk. I stilled, my heartbeat breaking into an uneven gait, the feel of his touch moving up my arm and spreading like the feel of sun on my skin. Oh my gosh, and then he's like, and then he gets closer to her and then he kisses her and she says, and I disappeared. I was erased. And I'm like, yep. It's just,
I haven't been reading that much YA, so I kept getting confused when it fades to black. I'm like, oh yeah, YA.
Right. We can't do that. I just love like the description of that underwater kiss, and those moments is just so perfect. Like it even says, bubbles ran up between us as I opened my mouth to taste the warmth of his, and the whole sea fell silent. It swelled. I kissed him again, hooking my fingers into his belt and trying to pull him closer. Oh my gosh. I can't it's just perfect. I loved it. And then I had another one. I think this is when he says it, because he talks about her about when he finally tells her, because they have the moment where he's like, you can stay with us, but we have to make this deal. And he's like, I can't care about somebody. And she's like, oh, I see. Okay. So they make a deal, even though that both of them don't really want that to happen, but they do. And then finally at the end, you got like this, it's a whole book's worth of slow burn. This is why it drives me crazy. But like finally at the end, he's like, I think I loved you since the first time we anchored in Javal. And it's so cute because it says he grinned suddenly, staring at the floor, and a bit of red bloomed on his skin, creeping up out of the collar of his shirt. It is so sweet. But then he's like, he tells her like, I couldn't leave you on the island. Oh no, that's earlier. I think that is in that first conversation where then he's like, oh, I can't do this. But I love that moment because he tells her like, because she's like, well, why didn't you just leave me there then if you don't want me here? And he's like, no, you don't understand. I couldn't leave you. I have these feelings for you. I couldn't. And then he pushes her away. And then we get to this moment at the end, like almost the last chapter, and it all comes out and he just reveals all of his feelings. And then they're just wrapped in each other's arms. The next thing you know, and she's sleeping there and then wakes up the next one. What I loved, which was hilarious, was the next morning when she leaves his cabin and one of the crew members is outside and he just like smirks as she comes out of West's cabin.
I know. She's like, oh, no one's going to notice. And like, I think his name is Paige.
Hey, yeah, I don't know how you pronounce that.
Yeah. And he's just like, what's up? And she's like,
shoot. It's hilarious. That was one of my favorite moments. But yeah, it took us the entire book to get there. Like there are literally only 3 chapters left in the book after that happens. And I'm like, my word, I am not a fan of slow burn. I can't handle it. It's like super satisfying when it finally happens, when they finally come together. But like the process of getting there was like, oh, it was like torture. I do love West. I think that he's a fantastic character. And his crew too. Let's talk about them too, because they are fun as well. Did you have a favorite crew member?
I kind of love Willa. Just because, like, she's very no nonsense, says it how it is. But, like, also, she is very open, which is not good. But I kind of love it because she's like, listen, I'll be open, but, like, if anything happens, I will kill you. Like, try me, I dare you. Yeah. And I love that for her because I know she'll hold up on it.
Yeah. And I love too, like we get the hint that there's something with her and West, but you don't know exactly what it is because Fable spies on them and sees them in that one port town that they were in. And then we discover that they're siblings, that West and Willa are siblings. And you're like, oh, it all makes sense now. And then Willa basically tells Fable, she's like, listen, I don't care if you're in with my brother, if you love him, whatever, that's fine. But anything happens, I'm going to kill you. Like you hurt him, you're dead. And you know, she's serious.
Yep. I love Willa.
Like, okay. Yep. So I love her too. She's great. So we have West, Hamish, Willa, Paj, or however you say that, and Auster. And so they all have their secrets, right? So West and Willa are siblings. That's their secret. Paj and Auster are gay lovers, which is their secret, but it's like everybody really knows, but they don't say anything. Like that's how kind of each of these are. Because Fable says multiple times, like kind of like how everybody pretends that the crew pretends they don't know that West and Willa are siblings, but I'm pretty sure everybody knows. And like they pretend that they don't know that Paj and Auster are in love with each other, but I'm pretty sure everybody knows.
In my head, they're married. So
hey, why not, right? And then, of course, the biggest secret was that West was in love with Fable, which I think that Willa probably knew that, but I don't think that Hamish or Paj or Auster knew that until...
I think they knew. I think everyone knew. Yeah, I think that West was so obvious with his, like, being guarded that anybody that would have known him well would have known.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because think about it. They've all been on this crew. It is a small ship. They've been all together for like 2 years now.
Yeah.
They would have known. They would have been like, oh, he's acting a little different.
Why is he only trading with her and nobody else? Although that was for Saint. But
yeah.
What I loved too was how when Fable first goes on the Marigold, West is fine, but like Paj and Auster and Hamish totally don't. And even Willa a bit. She's quicker to come around than the other ones are, but they don't really trust her. And so they kind of make her really earn her place on the ship. And I love when, I think it's Hamish, has the coin and he like was going to give it to her and then he tosses it in the water in the ocean and she totally dives down and comes up with the coin and is like, there.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite moments of the book. It was so fun. And it kind of like I mentioned too in the beginning, I loved how we get a little bit of each of their backstories. You know, we don't really know a lot about them at the beginning, but as the book goes through, we get like little bits and pieces about their stories coming together, like not just their secrets, but like where they're from, where they were raised, all that kind of stuff too. Okay. So the Marigold is a shadow ship for Saint, which is really cool. But what's funny is that West is like stealing from Saint. So
yeah, I think that's kind of like a known thing though. I think when you're a pirate, everyone kind of does that.
Yeah. But if he were to get caught, I mean, that would be a big deal. Like Saint would kill him. I mean, he's like helping Saint because he's looking out for Fable, but like but he's also stealing from Saint.
But Saint also taught him how to do it. So
that's true. He's got to expect
probably
some
knows.
of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So so the gems, I want to talk about this for a minute. I love okay, I thought this was a really cool element that she added with how Fable can like read the gems. Like she can sense if they're real or fakes, and how her mom taught her to be a gem sage. I was like, oh, that's really clever. Like that's a really cool, intricate little detail to add in there.
I love the idea of that, to be honest. It's like a very useful superpower in this world.
Seriously, right? With all the trading and stuff that they do, it's fantastic. Of course, poor Fable. She's so like, she has so many like smarts about her, but yet when they go to trade in that place, she says something to the guy like, "That's a fake. What are you doing?" And they're like, "Shut up! You're gonna ruin everything." She's like, "What? What did I do?"
Fable hasn't been in reality for a while, so it's like understandable.
Yeah, she's been stuck on Javal, that poor girl. I just thought that was a really cool, unique aspect, just to be able to see that. And I love like how her mom was able to teach her that, like it's innate in her a little bit, but her mom was also able to teach her that. And it's like, I like how Adrienne Young describes it as like the gems sing to her and they each have their own song and she can sense them and feel them and hear them and know if they're real or fake.
Because I always like the idea of gems and crystals having energy. And so I really love the just visual of being able to like sense it from a distance. Yeah. Like, I love that idea.
Yeah, it's really cool. And again, especially handy for a pirate. Very important. All right. I kind of want to go back to Saint a little bit here in Fable, because she does get off the island and she does find him, but he treats her kind of how I'd expect.
Yeah.
Such a jerk.
Hate that man. Hate him so much.
I mean, he doesn't want anything to do with her. She shows up and she's like, "Hey, look what I did. 4 years later, I earned enough money. I'm off this island. I did what you told me I could not do. Here I am. Take me on your crew." And he's like, "No, go away."
I just don't understand how you can want to have or like have a child and treat them so terribly.
Right? Because, and it's like I said earlier, like it's like you almost have the sense that the way that she describes Clove and the way she describes Saint is that Clove cared more for her in a fatherly way than Saint did. However, I did like the little trick that she pulled on her father. I thought that was very clever. When she goes to his house, it's Sanceros, and she sees her mom's necklace there, and she takes the necklace, and then Zola, who burnt their sails, right? Zola burnt their sails on the ship, so they couldn't leave, and they
slashed them all.
Right. They slashed them all. And so they couldn't leave, so they needed new sails, but they couldn't afford them. And Fable's like, "Oh, I can get Saint to pay for them." I loved this, because I was like, oh, she is gonna use those conniving skills that her father taught her and throw it right back in his face. And then she goes and she's like, "If you want mom's necklace back, you're gonna pay this money." And he was like, "Oh, you conniving little fitter."
I just don't understand how he can care so much about her mother and not care about her at all.
Right?
She's a spitting image of her mother. And also it's like, we know that he has this soft side. Where did it go?
Right.
And why did she never see it? And how did her mother, who seems to be this wonderful, loving individual, like, ooh.
What?
Ooh, I just had a theory.
Okay, what? Let's hear it.
My theory is that maybe the reason that Clove and Saint are no longer buddy, and the reason that he's so nice to Fable is, what if like the mother and Clove had a affair? That's because he's so nice.
I don't want it to be that, though. I can't. That would be.
Saint is such a dirtbag that I wouldn't blame her. You know what I mean?
I know, but she is so good, it seems like, that I I almost can't picture her doing that. And Clove, oh, I just
reason
don't
I'm saying
want it
that,
to be
though,
that. I totally get why you're saying it, but
I know. But I also feel like Saint wouldn't allow her to get a divorce. And it's just very suspicious the way that she suddenly died. Saint survived because they would have probably been right next to each other. It's weird that her mother had a hammock and didn't always sleep with Saint.
maybe she just wanted some space sometimes.
I mean, that's fine.
Sometimes
But it's like,
you need the space.
wouldn't you think that, like, if they're going through this really treacherous rainstorm, that, like, they probably would have been sleeping together or at least near each other?
Maybe. I don't know.
It just seems weird that she died, he didn't, and Fable survived.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's just how tragic books go sometimes.
Yeah, true. But, like, it's just, there's things that are happening that don't line up, and I'm trying to make connections. Because it's like, why is Saint such a jerk about everything? He's the worst.
So, okay. So it's like because he treats her horribly. He doesn't want her with him on his crew. He doesn't even want her to mention her mother's name, Yeah. And he keeps pushing her away, even though, but at the same time, he sends West to take care of her. Right?
Not good enough, but
Well, and he does leave her the lark and all of the treasure that's on it at the bottom of the sea. So she has to go, and her and West and the Marigold have to go, and they go and they get the treasure. So, and that's a boatload of money down there, all those gems. So it's like he does care for her, but maybe it's one of those things where it's like, because she looks so much like her mother, it's hard for him to be around her, but maybe he just didn't know how to handle it and raise her on his own.
I don't know.
You know what I mean? Because it seems like her mom taught her so much stuff, and her dad was like, here are these 5 rules that you have to live by. That's it. I don't know. It's hard. Is the hard one to kind of figure out. And I am hoping that we get a little bit more of an explanation in Namesake. So far, 16 chapters in, we don't have one, but maybe it will come up later. So
I hope so.
All right. So that was our first theory, right? Why did Clove and Saint split up? Because he says at the end of the book, Saint tells her that Clove is gone. So she, of course, thinks Clove is dead until Zola kidnaps her in the last chapter. And then she wakes up on the boat, and the first thing she sees is Clove. And she's like, oh, okay, well, he's not dead. But why is he
he's
on
like a
Zola's
janitor,
ship?
too.
Which, by the way, like, big cliffhanger ending. That's the end.
Yeah.
She opens up, and like the last word of the book is Clove. And I'm like, okay, so that happened. Great. But so this is one of my things. Why did Clove and Saint split? What happens? All right.
You got
a good theory there. I know. I don't really have a good theory. Unless like Clove betrayed Saint in some way. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But besides having an affair with Isilde.
I had a second follow-up theory. I thought maybe Clove couldn't deal with the loss of Fable, and he kept trying to go back for her, and Saint was like, no, you're not going back for her. And then basically was like, listen, and left him for dead because he kept trying to go back for Fable.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, that was my other theory.
Huh. That's really cool. That's a probable one as well. All right. Here's my next question, kind of theory thing. So Willa, towards the end of the book, says that with her share of the money that they got from Fable's treasure, because Fable generously splits it with the entire crew. So nice of her. So Willa says she's going to leave. She's going to leave West and the Marigold. Do you think I was like, is she really going to leave though? Will she really leave, or is she going to stay there? I kind of feel like she wants to leave, definitely, but I don't know I don't know that she actually will. What do you think?
I don't think she will. And especially after where we end off with her, like with Fable missing, there's no way she'll be like, okay, bye, West. Good luck figuring that out.
Right? No, like I think that she'll totally stay, at least to help West find Fable.
Yeah.
I think.
But
Maybe after that, I don't know.
I really think that no matter how much she thinks that she should, I think she'll keep finding excuses and reasons to stay just because it's a life that's kind of made for her, you know?
It
I
totally
think that
is.
she's like very tough and like kind of calloused to the world, and I think that she fits in really well, and she likes having a job where she doesn't have to follow rules. So I think her going back into a normal average society where there is all these rules that she has to follow is not going to work out for her.
I agree. So our other big question at the end, because it's not until the end of the book that West and Fable get together. Are they going to be together in Namesake in the next book? Like, I really hope so. I hope that I did not go through that entire slow burn for nothing. Like, I hope that at the end of Namesake, the two of them are together in some capacity, because if they're not, and I had to go through all that torture, I'm going to be really upset. So.
Me too. I was nervous he was going to think that she left instead of getting kidnapped. Like, I was very nervous about that.
Me too.
Just because it's just usually how those books play out, you know?
And considering their lifestyle and how Fable is, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if he considered that. Like, maybe she just left. But the thing is that they did just have, you know, that night together. And it's like the next day when she disappears. So I don't know. That would be really cruel.
What was going through her head when she's like, oh, yeah, you know, these people are trying to kill us, but like, whatever. They don't seem to be important. She didn't even look at the port to see who was there.
Well, she just wanted to find her dad, who, again, was in the tea house drinking tea out of a porcelain teacup.
Well, no, I don't think she was trying to find her dad. I think she went for the ring past the teacup. Yeah.
No, she went, that's right. She left the ship to go and get, to go to like the pawn shop to get the ring back for West. She went to buy that back and the knife. She went to buy those back, and she just happened to see her father in the pub or whatever, tea house, on her way. That's what it was.
How has Saint not killed off Zola's entire crew yet?
Well, Zola has a really big crew because he has like ships in multiple ports. He has multiple ships.
Well, he used to. I think he only has the one now, because they said that Zola is basically trying to keep everyone that's lower from rising up. So it's got to be bothering a lot of his shadow ships.
I would imagine it is too. I don't know. Maybe we'll get more about that in Namesake. All of these questions.
I feel like if I was Saint, I would just be like, goodbye, Zola.
Right? Especially because Zola slashed the sails on the Marigold, hit his crew. But then West and his crew killed one of Zola's crew members, shoved him overboard.
Yeah.
So, you know, kind of even in a way.
Well, Zola disfigured Willa. So
yeah, that was pretty bad.
We're still not even yet.
No, not really. I don't know.
There's much.
Lots of questions left for book 2, which I am really excited about. So Rachel and I talked about this earlier before we started recording, but I had actually wanted to mention this in the episode too at the end, because one of the things that I was left wondering at the end was, okay, so she just got kidnapped. She's on Zola's ship. So does that mean we're just going to have the book is Namesake going to be just from Fable's point of view, or are we going to have it from Fable's point of view and West's point of view, which I thought would have been really cool. Just so everybody knows, it's only from Fable's point of view. So Adrienne Young gives us a slow burn in a different way in Namesake, because it's only from Fable's point of view, and we have to wait until so many chapters in when West finally pops back up into the story.
I know. I was hoping we would get like West like panic chapters. That was what I was hoping for, as he's tearing the city apart to find her.
I was really, really
good.
Yeah, I was really hoping for that as well, and just some chapters from his point of view, but that's not what happens. But it's fine. It's still really, really good. So I'm enjoying it, and I know you will too. And I'm excited. So to do an episode for Patreon. Segue. If you are listening and you are not a Patreon member, but you would like to hear that bonus episode, sign up for my Patreon. Okay. It's fun. Lots of bonus, lots of good stuff there. All right. So speaking of, why don't you, I think we're good. We're going to wrap this up. So why don't you tell everybody where they can find your podcast and your Patreon too? Because you have one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. So Barely Bookish is available on all the places. And because it's all about classic literature and modern classics, in which I read them. Some mostly enjoy them if they're by Jane Austen. And then if they're by anybody written in the 50s, like the modernism, I usually drag them a little bit. But like it's in a fun, loving, sometimes loving way. But like you'll enjoy it. It's good. If you like what we do here, you're gonna love the Barely Bookish podcast. It is, if you want to go on any of my social media, it's at Barely Bookish on literally everything, because I somehow got those usernames before anyone else got them. Not sure how I did it, but I am on Instagram, Facebook for some reason still, Twitter, TikTok, and Twitch. I think that's it.
Nice. All right. Good. And I'll put links to all of Rachel's social media stuff, podcast, Patreon, all that jazz in the show notes for today. So.
Oh yeah, and Patreon. Why did I forget that one?
It's kind of a big one.
I know. Patreon, we have the fun after full episodes on. Right now we have a 1995 versus 2005 Pride and Prejudice comparison with Amanda Faye, who did all of the Pride and Prejudice episodes with us. And little secret, some people haven't heard yet, we are doing Bridget Jones' Diary next month.
Yay!
So that'll be fun.
Love Bridget Jones. Love me some Bridget Jones. All right, cool. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming on again, Rachel. This was so much fun. I loved it. And thank you to all of you for continuing to listen to the podcast and supporting it. And we will chat again soon. Today's episode featured the book Fable by Adrienne Young. Be sure to follow YA Book Chat on Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe so that you get your podcast episodes as soon as they are available. And have you checked out the YA Book Chat Patreon yet? You should. Links are in the show notes for today. As always, thanks for listening. I really appreciate your continued support.